to his neck. Court shuts down Ponzi scheme couple's attempt to escape charges. 6-year-old girl found unconscious in swamp near home. And Wish Upon a Star initiative launched for special needs children. And now for the news in detail. The politically motivated charges filed by the Special Organized Crime Unit under the APNU-AFC government against Finance Minister Ashley Singh and head of the Gas to Shore Task Force, Winston Brassington, were this morning withdrawn. Here's our lead story tonight.
The Evening News understands that prosecutors of the Special Organized Crime Units indicated to Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan that they did not wish to proceed with the charges against the high-ranking government officials, Dr. Ashley Singh and Winston Brassington. Both men were charged back in 2018 and they were released on $6 million bail each on joint charges for misconduct in public office over the sale of state lands while they had served under the previous PPPC government. At the time, Dr. Singh served as finance minister while Brassington served as head of the National Industrial and Commercial Investments Limited. Dr. Singh is now serving as senior minister with responsibility for finance, while Brassington is currently heading the government's task force for the Gas to Shore project. The withdrawal of the charges comes weeks after Chief Justice Roxanne George ruled that the charges against the duo must go to trial in the magistrates' courts. Dr. Singh and Brassington had moved to the High Court challenging the validity of the charges laid against them by the Director of Public Prosecutions. They had argued that they were still charged even though they obtained valuations for the lands they sold. They had further argued that the charges were politically motivated and without merit. As a consequence, they contended that the charges should be quashed. Fiona Merson reporting for the Evening News.
The Ethnic Relations Commission's National Conversation on Improving Ethnic Relations in Guyana saw presentations from a number of speakers, including former parliamentarian Ravi Dev, whose recommendations include using Guyana's education system to tackle racism and the affirmative action to be taken for oppressed people. Jal Bryan tells us more.
Former Member of Parliament Ravi Dev, who once represented the Rise Organize and Rebuild Guyana (ROAR) party in the National Assembly, made it clear that racism must be confronted at an educational level.
We cannot escape the elephant in the room, which is anti-African racism, which is it's universal. So if it's universal, it's not just in Guyana, it's all across the world. So it's a systemic worldwide feature that comes out of the whole European project to put themselves as a universal thing. So our educational system will have to attack anti-African racism, which is everywhere.
Among Dev's recommendations was for affirmative action to rectify the economic discrimination that African and indigenous Guyanese have been subjected to.
First of all, we must address the influence that different cultures have on conflict in plural society, because it's culture that we can change. Secondly, we must inculcate civic nationalism and not be ashamed to say that it does not necessarily conflict with ethnic nationalism. We must have economic affirmative action for African and indigenous Guyanese. They were discriminated against in the past and they were excluded from national development, so there must be some rectification of that.
Meanwhile, former Alliance for Change chairman Nigel Hughes argued that the pronouncements on race in Guyana must be data-driven.
Since independence, every successive government has made absolutely no attempt to collect data by race and ethnicity or analyze the impact of various policies on different races and ethnicities. And one would have thought that in a multi-ethnic community like Guyana, where it is so easy to hurl allegations of racial bias around the world at each other, that we would have been a society that would have been dedicated to finding data that contradicted what people who were saying the opposite to us were saying. But there has been no attempt since independence to gather any data on the basis of race or ethnicity. And so if I were to say that there is a bias in a particular government in favor of a particular ethnicity or race, I would be contradicted or supported by the collection of national data, which says, no, the Chinese are not the major people in financing, or the Africans are not the major people in the police force, or they are. So that at least we can have a collective basis upon which we can start to address the problem.
The National Conversation on Race, organized by the ERC, is the first in recent memory, bringing together politicians, academics, and scholars to discuss racism in Guyana. Gerald Bryan, The Evening News.
Following a number of concerns raised by striking workers of the Cariveton Town Council, the town's treasurer was sent on leave, a move which has convinced the aggrieved workers to return to work. Details in this report.
Last week, workers at the Cariveton municipality went on strike calling for better working conditions and improved wages and salaries. The workers claim that they are being paid below the minimum wage. One employee, Francine Charles, is contending that the workers are earning less since the pandemic hit Guyana in March of this year. The market clerk said currently she's being paid $9,301 weekly, which represents less than half of what she previously earned. General Secretary of the Guyana Labor Union, Carvel Duncan, said he penned a letter to the municipality seeking to have several issues resolved, and the municipality refused to respond, forcing the union to take industrial action. On Monday, Mayor Winston Roberts refuted those allegations, saying that the municipality did respond to the union.
This is what he said. But he never tell you that we sent a reply to him. He never said that. But luckily what we did, we posted and we registered by mail. And we have the stub to prove that we sent a registered letter to him.
The union had sent a letter dated November 30, and the municipality said it responded on December 1st. The mayor said that the union listed 14 issues affecting workers. When asked what those issues were, Mayor Roberts refused to divulge, saying that the two sides are still locked in negotiations and will be meeting the chief labor officer on Tuesday in an effort to resolve the differences. He promised on Wednesday the municipality will be in a better position to make public that information.
And after tomorrow, I'll be in a better position to answer any of your questions.
Meanwhile, as the workers returned to work after the first meeting on Tuesday, the treasurer was sent on administrative leave.
The council decision to send the treasurer, the net prefect, on administrative leave. Now, when you do that, remember it is a council decision. The next thing is that the Madam Treasurer form a strike action by some of their councils. The same about 14 allegations.
Andrew Carmichael, The Evening News.
Guyana's COVID-19 death toll has reached 156 following the death of a resident from Region 10, Upper Demerara, Berbice. In this Rupasinoran report, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony explains that most of the country's COVID-19 related deaths are elderly persons and that this is why the government plans to ensure that that section of the population is among the first to benefit from the vaccine.
Guyana's latest COVID-19 fatality is a 72-year-old man from Region 10 who died while receiving care at a medical facility. He is recorded as the 5th death for December and was reported just hours after the 155th death, a 79-year-old male from Region 4. Commenting on the latest coronavirus-related deaths, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony indicated that while mostly older persons are succumbing to the virus, there is a range of comorbidities that is also responsible for fatalities.
When we examine the mortality profile, we're seeing a lot of older people. The majority of the persons who have died are older, and of course persons with comorbidities. So we have had in our context, persons who are diabetics, persons with heart disease, persons with kidney disease, persons with other lung pathologies, persons whose immune system has been suppressed, meaning persons with HIV, and we have had a case with a person with TB. So you have a range of comorbidities.
Because these persons are at a higher risk of succumbing to the virus, the minister explained that authorities are looking to immunize older persons and those with underlying conditions when the vaccine is available to Guyana.
In coming up with our vaccine allocation protocol, that we strongly believe that we should immunize older persons and, of course, persons with the comorbidities, because they are at an increased risk.
As of Monday, there were 23 new cases of COVID-19, which raised the total confirmed positives to 5,943. There are 8 persons in the intensive care unit, 48 in institutional isolation, 657 on home isolation, and 22 in institutional quarantine. To date, 5,077 patients have made complete recoveries. Rupa Sinarain, The Evening News.
The government, through the Human Services Ministry, has launched a childcare subsidy for essential workers, whereby those who are providing an essential service or key public services during the COVID-19 pandemic can apply to the ministry for subsidy program. Here's Rupa Sinarain with the details.
Human Services and Social Security Minister Dr. Vindhya Prasad recently announced the Childcare Subsidy Program for essential workers. The Child Care Subsidy Program will assist essential workers who have children of ages 7 and under. Categories that will qualify include members of the Guyana Police Force and Guyana Fire Service, frontline health workers, human services workers, domestic workers, security farm workers, and supermarket employees, among others. According to Minister Prasad, the program is an all-rounded approach to not only facilitate daycare subsidy for essential workers, but to improve the conditions of the 244 registered daycare centers nationwide, ensuring that they open safely under COVID-19 guidelines. The detailed application form, which includes the criteria for eligibility, can be downloaded on the ministry's website. A hard copy version of the application form will be available at the ministry's Lamaha or Cornhill and Water Streets locations. They are also available at the Child Care Protection Agency on Broad Street or any probation office in Region 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. This latest subsidy is among a slew of measures announced by President Dr. Irfan Ali, geared towards easing the burden of Guyanese as the world battles the COVID-19 pandemic. Rupa Sinarain, The Evening News.
Coming up, teen drowns during fishing expedition at Windsor Forest. 6-year-old girl found unconscious in swamp near home, and bachelor's adventure man found dead with stab wounds to his neck. Stay with us. You're watching The Evening News. The body of 17-year-old Surendra Singh of Linetop, Windsor Forest, West Coast, Demerara was this morning found at the foreshore. The young man went missing on Sunday at the Windsor Forest seawall during a fishing trip with 2 friends. Reports are that the trio went into the water to set several lines. As they were making their way back to the shore, Singh and another teen reportedly fell into a channel and were submerging. A man who was on the seawall at the time saw what was happening and took his fishing boat to rescue the boys. However, he managed to save one of the teens, as Singh, who could not swim, went down and did not resurface. An alarm was raised and a search party was launched to find the teen. His body was washed up onto the shore today. Meanwhile, the 2 surviving teens were taken into police custody, assisting with investigations. We now tell you that a 6-year-old girl was on Sunday afternoon found in an unconscious state in a swampy area near her Golden Bananan Land, East Kanji Berbice home. The child lived with her mother of 25, a housewife. Her grandparents lived at the same location but in a separate house. The girl's mother and father are separated, but the father was given visitation rights to spend time with his daughter every Sunday. On the day in question, the father contacted the mother at around 8 hours and made arrangements to pick her up. According to the mother, she prepared the child for the father to pick her up and left her in the yard playing. At the time, the child's grandmother was at home doing house chores and last saw her at around 11 hours 30. However, at around 12 hours 30, when the grandfather made checks for the child, he did not find her. As a result, a search party was immediately formed by relatives and friends who combed the entire area, and at around 14 hours, the grandfather found the girl submerged in a swampy area which is located about 500 feet away from the house. She was subsequently picked up in an unconscious state and rushed to the New Amsterdam Public Hospital, where she was seen and examined by a doctor who admitted her as a patient and later referred her to the Georgetown Public Hospital, where she was presently admitted and undergoing treatment. Meanwhile, a 6-year-old boy on Wednesday last went berserk after drinking his mentally ill grandmother's medication at their Main Street East Kanji Berbice home. Reports are that the child and his grandmother were locked in their house. Neighbors said it was unusual practice for the child's mother to lock him in the house with his grandmother. On the day in question, neighbors said they heard the child screaming while the grandmother was heard shouting at someone to stop beating him. Assuming that it was bandits in the house, the neighbors rushed over to render assistance, but the door was locked and they could not get in. They then telephoned the child's mother, who arrived shortly after. It was then that they revealed that the child drank his mother's medication. The grandmother is a patient at the National Psychiatric Hospital Clinic, where she's getting her medication supplies. Meanwhile, the child was admitted as a patient at the New Amsterdam Hospital and was released on Friday. The Child's Care and Protection Agency has since been notified and an investigation is ongoing. Our Berbice correspondent Andrew Carmichael joins us now to report that 5 persons are now homeless after a fire destroyed a 2-story building at King Street, New Amsterdam, Region 6 on Sunday morning. Here are the details.
They're throwing gasoline. I don't know what.
The fire consuming everything on the upper flat of the 2-story building. 84-year-old Doreen Tom, her 3 grandchildren, and acting town engineer of New Amsterdam, Alana Joseph, were at home at about 4 hours 30 when the fire erupted. Reports are that one of the grandchildren woke up and saw a fan next to his bed on fire. He reportedly pulled his brother out of the bed and then raised an alarm. Joseph, 40, said she woke up and observed the fire in her bedroom. As a consequence, she immediately alerted Doreen and her grandchildren, and they all exited the building. The firefighters reportedly arrived about 20 minutes after fire was initially seen in the house. The firefighters reportedly encountered difficulty in accessing water initially, as a hydrant situated 80 meters away from the scene was tampered with. There are reports that the Guyana Water Inc. removed the top of the hydrant, hence the firefighters could not get it opened. The blaze was finally under control at about 6 hours. The firemen succeeded in preventing the blaze from spreading to other buildings. They were also able to minimize damage to the lower flat of the house that was on fire. For the evening news, Andrew Carmichael.
Meanwhile, a 48-year-old housewife and her 2 daughters, aged 3 and 5, perished in a fire at their home located at 4 Mile Squatting Area, Bartik in Region 7. The fire was started by her reputed husband and father of the 2 children at around 21 hours 30 on Saturday. Dead are Carolina Kennedy and her 2 daughters, Mariana Downer and Gabriella Kennedy. Reports are that the man allegedly heard his reputed wife on the phone speaking with a male and became enraged and set the house ablaze. When the fire was extinguished, what appeared to be the charred remains of 3 humans were found among the debris. The bodies of the victims were subsequently removed from the scene and taken to the Bartika Hospital mortuary. Based on information received, the search was launched for the suspect, and he was found in the bushes in close proximity to the house. He was immediately arrested and escorted to the Bartica Hospital, where he is presently admitted for minor bruises to his feet. Investigations are still ongoing. The East Coast Demerara community of Bachelor's Adventure was sent into shock on Monday morning after one of the villagers was found dead along the roadway in the area. Fiona Morrison was there and filed this report.
The dead man has been identified as 23-year-old Keith Andrew Willis called Gandhi of Bachelor's Adventure on the east coast of Demerara. Willis, a father of one, had left his home on Sunday to attend a football competition in the community. The game ended at around 2000 hours, after which he went to visit his girlfriend, who resides at Paradise Housing Scheme, East Coast Demerara. Police said at around 2300 hours, the young man left his girlfriend's residence for home. At around 5:30 hours on Monday, a resident of the community was heading to work when he observed Willis lying motionless on the roadway. Crime scene ranks upon examining the man's body found what appeared to be a stab wound to his upper left side neck. Seema Sukhar, the man's mother, was inconsolable as she watched investigators examine her son's body. The mother said that her son was a loving and decent young man and did not deserve to die in such a gruesome manner.
Everybody knows he's a very quiet and decent child, really helpful, peaceful. He don't interfere with nobody. He's going away, he just come away.
The woman explained that due to her illness, her son worked and took care of their family. Police said that investigations are ongoing. Up to press time, no one had been arrested for the killing. Fiona Morrison, The Evening News.
Chief Justice Acting Roxanne George has thrown out the application made by the couple accused of operating a Ponzi scheme in Guyana to have their accounts unfrozen and the charges against them dismissed. Here are the details from Gerald Bryan.
Cuban national Yuri Garcia Dominguez and his Guyanese wife Atika Ishmael are facing over 70 charges for obtaining money by false pretense. The duo had filed an application in the High Court seeking orders against the Commissioner of Police and the Director of Public Prosecutions to have the charges dismissed. According to a statement from the Attorney General Chambers, however, the duo was unable to provide evidence supporting their applications. As such, Acting Chief Justice Roxanne George declined to grant the orders sought. The accused had also sought orders against Attorney General Anil Nandalal to prevent him from instructing the investigative arms of the state to pursue the case against them. Additionally, they sought an order to have Nandalal order the unfreezing of their bank accounts. But the Chief Justice sided with the AG, who submitted an application of his own and found that the duo's application was misconceived. It was pointed out that Central Bank, and not the AG, had the power to unfreeze accounts. In the end, $250,000 in costs were awarded against the Cuban couple. Together, Garcia Dominguez and his wife are facing 70-plus charges for obtaining monies by false pretense from some 17,000 people. They are alleged to have obtained millions by using a forex trading Ponzi scheme. Gerald Bryan, The Evening News.
We now tell you that a pedal cyclist is now dead after being hit by a minibus on the Quarantine Highway at Cariveton, Region 6, East Berbice, Quarantine, on Sunday morning. Dead is 39-year-old Purshantam Talik, called Navin, of Lot 125 Albert Street, Kingston, Cariveton. Reports are that Talik was riding a bicycle coming out of the Albert Street onto the Quarantine Highway when he was struck down. According to one eyewitness, the minibus was traveling at a fast rate of speed at the time. The accident occurred a stone's throw away from the Springlands police station. Police officers reportedly arrived at the scene quickly and supervised Talik's being removed and placed into a minibus to be taken to the hospital. He died while receiving medical attention. This newscast was told that the driver has promised to assist the grieving family in any way possible. Nevertheless, he was taken into custody and is assisting police with the investigations. The Ministry of Human Services and Social Security has launched a Wish Upon a Star initiative for vulnerable children to get an opportunity for their dream to be realized this Christmas season. The idea was conceptualized by Subject Minister Dr. Vindhya Prasad. Under this initiative, the children between the ages of 4 and 15 are encouraged to submit letters outlining their wishes. Let's find out more.
Children have so many wishes, and we would like to make their wishes become a reality. This year, we are reaching out to children who are terminally ill, children who suffer from disabilities, children who may have lost their parents, children who have suffered some psychological trauma, and children who have never had the opportunity to enjoy something that they desire or really, really wish for that would put a smile on their face and make them incredibly happy. Now is the chance for a child to say where he or she wants to go, who he or she wants to meet, and what he or she would really like to have. Maybe that child would even like to give someone something. So we've come upon the idea of giving them the opportunity to wish upon a star. Our mailboxes will be across the country, our Santa's mailboxes, and all that child has to do is to put in writing what their wish is, or if you know a child and you want to make that child smile, happy, or to put the spirit of the season into perspective by making their wish come true, then you write and let us know why you think that child should benefit from our program. We are going to be engaging a number of companies and entities to help to make that child's wish upon a star a reality.